Hey guys, it's Cayley. I am back with another what sold from last week video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my sales that are happening right now on eBay and Poshmark. We are also going to dive into some of those individual sales. I'll pull them up on my screen and share them with you, talk about why I picked them up in the first place and how much we priced them for. I don't have much to say about sales. I know a lot of people are saying that Q4 is feeling a little bit different right now. I am feeling that somewhat. I mean, our sales are very up and down, but I would say on average, they are pretty steady. I haven't made any major changes in my business within the last couple of months, so I expect it to be pretty steady. But you know, Q4 is typically you're seeing a big increase in sales. My sales are just steadily growing, so maybe this year October will not be my best month. Maybe it'll be November or December. I also think that this is an election year, as many of you guys have stated. That plays a big role, and it may be affecting sales a little bit. Overall, I am super happy with the way sales are going, especially because we haven't really increased listings as much as I have wanted to. Despite that, sales are pretty consistent and steadily growing. Let me know down below how sales have been going for you. Does this feel like a regular Q4 for you, or were you expecting a little bit of a boost sooner than expected? All right, let's dive into these sales. All of the sales that we're going over happened last week, September 29th through October 5th. I cannot believe that we are in October already. It is absolutely insane. I did have, like I said, pretty just steady week. In total, my items sold were 302. I sold 207 on eBay. I sold only 95 on Poshmark. I'm having a little bit of trouble pulling together the sales report for Poshmark because we just started doing live sales on Poshmark. So I noticed that my live sales were put into my Poshmark sales report and kind of just smashed in between everything else. So I didn't figure that you guys would want to see that. If you do want me to include that, I'll probably just do a separate live what sold video type of thing. But regardless, I ended up removing those out. This is what actually sold, just buy it now on Poshmark, which as you can see is probably the lowest average sale price and also lowest sales week that I have had in a very long time. I'm gonna attribute that to the fee change. Things really got shaken up. I think that this is a result of that. I did, because things were so slow, run a closet clear out, which is typically something I do at the beginning of the month anyways. We did generate some sales, but they were all like clearanced older prices. As you can see, very significant drop in sales. That is why I'm so happy that I cross post. A lot of you guys have been asking me recently. I use List Perfectly. It is my favorite cross posting tool. I am so glad that I don't have all of my eggs in one basket, because if I only sold on Poshmark right now, I would be crying. Like, period, point blank, I would be crying. So anytime one platform, and eBay has its issues too, I'm sure Poshmark's gonna, things are gonna steady out. I am hopeful for that. But eBay has its issues too, and when one platform is having issues, the other one does pull through. So very happy that eBay came through this week. On eBay, my average item sale price was around $34. On Poshmark, it was the lowest it has been in a very long time at around $17. My gross item sales in total were around $8,600 with a combined average sale price per item of around $28. Again, probably my lowest in a while. I think that is due to the Poshmark sales dragging that number way down. eBay, solid as always. All right, let's dive into these individual sales. Despite having very slow sales on Poshmark, I did have a few pretty good sales on Poshmark that I can't wait to share with you, but we are going to do eBay first, as we always do. So on eBay, this was probably my best sale this week. This sold so quickly, and I just love being able not only to sell brands that people think you can't sell, but also categories. A lot of people pass on the smaller categories like belts, hats, ties, things like that. but these are where some of the highest dollar things can be, just because people are passing on them. So you guys might have seen the Instagram reel. If you're not already, consider following me on Instagram. It's under the same handle, Cayley Elaine. I share a lot of shorts over there that are exclusive to Instagram only, at least for right now. I shared the belts reel where I found a bunch of really amazing belts all in one spot. They were priced at about $2 each. One of them was Escada, a designer brand. Normally I don't get excited about Escada just clothing wise because it tends to sit, but belts is a different story. This was a really cool novelty elephant belt. There was a little bit of wear on the hardware, but overall really excellent condition. Unique belts in designer, even if that designer typically performs poorly for you in clothing, is definitely something that I would look at in any kind of hard good, really. Belts, handbags, things like that. So like I said, this sold the day after we got it listed. We paid $2 for this, listed it for $150 or best offer. Very quickly got an offer for $120 for a belt. I can't believe it. Favorite sale ever. So definitely keep your eye out in the belt section. I probably need to do a belt deep dive. It has been a while since we have talked about that, but keep your eye out for belts. They're so easy to look through and they're typically very cheap. Next up is a style-based flip. This is by B. Moss. And this is a vintage Y2K label, vintage Y2K B. Moss. Not typically a brand I even consider, but this had all of the amazing factors in the Y2K fairy dress category. And so because it had all of those factors combined into one, I had to get it. It was even missing its size tag, which kind of deterred me a little bit, but I am happy I decided to pick it up. This was actually half price at a local thrift store for only $3. I listed this for $75. The power of style-based bolos, regardless of brands, it's just insane. If you guys want to learn more about that and see all of the deep dives we already have so you'll know exactly what factors to look for, come on over to Reseller's Edge. We have so much stuff available for you. Reseller's Edge and Learning with Sean and Bethany, Trash Panas Thrift, is exactly how I learned all of these style-based bolos that I'm now sharing with you guys in the What Sold videos. So I listed this for $75. It sold for full asking price just 5 days after being listed. Makes me wonder if I priced it too low. I actually priced this one slightly lower because the length was a little bit shorter than I would typically like. So I think I priced it just right, but $75, full asking price, even with an estimated sizing, you cannot beat that. This is the stuff that people are passing up at the thrift stores all the time because, again, it's just the style. It has nothing to do with brand in most cases, and it's great to be able to add this to my arsenal. Next up, I've talked about this before, but it has been a while. In shoes, I do like finding unique looking Nikes. Most Nikes are not great, but if you see anything with a lot of multicolor, maybe a chunky heel or maybe a contrast platform, maybe worth looking into. This is one of their well-known materials, which is their fly knit. It's kind of a stretchy knit material. I usually always look those up. This is a women's, surprisingly, high sell-through rate Air Vapor Max Fly Knit sneaker. Usually the women's stuff performs way not as well as the men's ASP and sell-through rate, but this one in particular was actually pretty good. We listed this one for $70, did have a little bit of wear to it, and it sold within about 3 weeks for our full asking price of $70. These ones we paid up for, so $16 into $70. Next up, this was another we paid up for but flipped it very quickly. These are Goldie jeans. There are not many brands in the women's jeans section that I feel like I could flip very quickly or for a lot of money. Sometimes, to be honest, I don't even go to the women's jeans sections because I just feel like I'm going through hundreds of jeans to come out with nothing. But this is a brand that I do look for. I will say that this brand, the sell-through rate is nowhere near as good as it used to be. So you have to be very specific. The style, the size, sometimes even the wash helps. Luckily, we had all of that information because these happen to be new with tags. I have come across quite a few Goldie jeans where the sell-through was just so poor I could not say yes to it. These ones, however, had a lot of good stuff going, mainly it being new with tags. Listed these for $80, and I think we honestly probably priced slightly lower just to get that sell-through rate up, and it did sell for our full asking price. We paid $15 for it, so 15 into full asking price of $80. This one took a couple of weeks to sell. A lot of times pricing impacts how quickly something is going to sell. I would much rather price something like those Agolde jeans slightly lower than everyone else to get them to move, because sometimes if you price along with everyone else, even if it's just a $5 or $10 difference, that's what causes an item to sit for a year or two. So very important not only to price competitively in the first place and consider everything like sell-through rate, but also to have some kind of a price drop for when items become older. And that's how we've been able to move a lot of this stuff. You're going to see a lot of examples of that. I have one where we definitely priced it too high in the beginning and it did sit. I've got a few examples of that to show you today. This is a pretty decent sale. This is Calvin Klein. This is also a brand I don't pick up a lot of. I do look at their plus size tops, but for almost anything else, it's usually a pass for me. Some of their dresses, if they are more substantial, I will take a look. This is definitely like an evening gown type of thing. It is super long length. It is gold champagne color, and it's a larger size, a size 14. So that all played into us picking this up. I could see somebody wearing this to like New Year's Eve. There's a couple different occasions where I could see a buyer actually picking this up. So factor stacking reasons and style are the main reason that I got this. Listed this for $65. We paid $8. It did sell for our full asking price. This one we had sold and then it got returned for fit. We originally listed this probably a couple of months ago, so I will say I think it's taken a couple of weeks to sell, but after getting it relisted, it sold quickly within a couple of weeks. Next up, this is a brand I wasn't super familiar with, but we've been getting a lot of this brand in wholesale. It is Hement and then Nandita. It is an Anthropologie brand and pretty good sell-through rate on most of their pieces. They have really substantial patchworky multicolor type pieces. I know some brands in Anthropologie don't hold their weight, but this one does seem to hold its weight with the pieces we've been getting. This is a paneled maxi skirt, and it was also new with tags. We listed this for $75. I actually see a mistake in our listing. We put new with tags, but pre-owned condition there. I'll have to get with my team about that one, but $75. We paid $12.50. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $64, and this one did take 3 weeks to sell. Not bad, honestly, for an I'm not sure if you guys will have seen this thrift haul yet or not, but I did show this in a thrift haul. I'm not sure if it's live yet though. Buck Mason. This is a Buck Mason cardigan. This brand is one of the best-selling men's brands right now. Very high sell-through rate. Their t-shirts even go for like $18 for a pre-owned plain t-shirt, but definitely if you find a more substantial piece, that's going to go for a lot more, but super high sell-through rate. This was called the Seafarer Rib Cardigan. We can see we use quite a few keywords. As a category, men's cardigans are extremely popular. Higher sell-through rate, higher ASP. Companies just don't put out a lot of them, so they tend to be a good flip. If I come across any men's cardigan in any brand, I am at least looking it up and more than likely getting it. We paid $13 for this one, listed this for $65. It did sell for our full asking price, and it sold the same day we listed it. Next up, I got a couple of these in wholesale. I didn't know that Birkenstocks made sneakers like this. These obviously have, some scuffing, some wear on them, but Birkenstock people don't seem to mind. We made sure to note it, of course, and consider that in pricing. But did you guys know Birkenstocks made sneakers? I definitely did not. So this was called the Ben Low leather sneaker. We listed this for $60. We paid $10. It sold for our full asking price, and it took 3 weeks to sell. Similarly, these went to a different buyer, but same style, just a different color and texture. We also listed these for $60 and they sold for our full asking price. These ones also took 3 weeks to sell because they both got listed around the same time. So yeah, keep your eye out for Birkenstocks, not just in the sandals, but plain sneakers as well. Next up, this is more of a style or factor stacking flip. This is by the brand Breckenridge. This is not a brand that I would memorize. However, the factor stacking I definitely would. I think I showed it in a what to look for fall video. Longer length coats, overcoats, dressy coats in both the women's and the men's department are something that I'm looking up, especially if they have any form of cashmere. This was a wool cashmere blend, vintage, longer length coat. This is also a very nice color brown. Different shades of browns and greens right now are very trendy. It's a long length overcoat. This one actually had quite a few issues. There were multiple holes, multiple spots, so we just factored that into the price. We paid $6 and listed this for $45. It did sell for our full asking price, and it took a couple of weeks to sell. Next up, one of my other favorite men's brands to sell, very high sell-through rate, very good ASP, is Rhoback, RHO back, dog logo. This is a men's zip pullover. I would pick up anything in Rhoback. They make pants, they make polos, t-shirts, hats, all kinds of things. It all does well, especially in a larger size like this. I listed this zip pullover for $60. We paid $10. And it sold for our full asking price. This one only took about 4 days to sell. So again, very high sell-through rate on that brand. Next up, another high sell-through rate brand is Hoka. I pretty much look at every Hoka One shoes that I come across, both men's and women's. I generally look up the style with the size, but to be honest, I have learned that pretty much any Hokas, as long as the tread is still there, will sell. I factor in condition and sell-through rate into my pricing. These ones did have a few spots. They were white, so it is likely they're going to have spots, but you can see the tread is in pretty great condition. Listed these for $50 just because of the issues. We paid $15. Did sell for our full asking price, and these were another one that got returned for fit and resold very quickly after getting them listed. No longer than a month. We have now sold them twice. And here's another Rhoback. You can see the logo on this one a little bit better. This one we also paid $10 for. We listed for $60. This one sold on an offer to watcher for $51, and it sold within 2 days of being listed. So again, super high sell-through rate. You definitely want to know this brand, Rhoback. All right, this is a pretty interesting sale. We actually listed this at the end of May, so it has been several months. In May, it would have been starting to be spring into summer, very hot weather. And so we picked this up. Even though it is a thick, chunky wool sweater, we picked it up regardless of season, just because we know that stuff like this sells every single year within these factor stacking categories. This is not a brand I was familiar with, Heidi Wynn. However, it was a chunky, thick wool sweater made in Ireland. So those are the key indicators. Thick, chunky wool made in Ireland. Any brand, I would definitely look it up and consider getting, even in hot weather. Obviously now we are in the season for this. We included quite a few keywords. You can take a look at our title, but this is a women's 100% wool fisherman sweater. And it's like an ivory color, which I think adds value to it. Listed this one for $60 originally. This one has been sitting for several months because we picked it up at the end of May for $8. However, we knew it would probably sell during this season. This ended up selling on an offer to watcher for $51, and it did take several months to sell. Next up, this is another style-based piece. There is no brand whatsoever on this or sizing. It was a vintage handmade suede leather poncho. It had several spots throughout. However, very unique piece. Western wear, still very trendy. And I also like the contrast. The browns and the greens are very trendy. I think this is just color-wise a very on-trend piece. We listed this for $50, paid $7, and it sold for our full asking price. For a style-based piece, it sold super fast, only about 3 days to sell. So definitely keep your eye out for this stuff, especially real suede leather, I've noticed has been trending. Next up, this is a J. Crew sweater. We could have added so many more keywords to the title, but we didn't have room. But tennis prep comes to mind for this. This is a very tennis preppy sweater with striping here. Any kind of men's J. Crew thick sweater, I would definitely look into. A lot of the stuff does pretty well. Do not pass on J. Crew men's sweaters. This one we listed for $45. It did sell for our full asking price. This one actually only took 2 weeks to sell. We paid $5. Next up, this is another style based. This is a vintage Y2K. The brand is Zone Blue. Really interesting. This could go in so many different directions. Definitely like a Y2K artsy type style, but this is the stuff that is in right now. We listed this for $45. It sold for our full asking price, and it actually sold the same day that we got it listed. We paid $8 for this. Definitely, if you find anything that is out there looking super artsy, you definitely want to look that up. All right, this kind of goes along with that other wool piece. This is same situation, except instead of made in Ireland, made in Scotland, but it is a thick wool piece. This is by another brand I've never heard of, Glen Craig Knitwear. But again, all the factors were there for it. I knew it was going to be a great. And men's sweater vests also are a category I feel like a lot of people skip on, but there can be some really amazing gems. The print to this, the Fair Isle, is very trendy right now, so that definitely added some value to it as well. I listed this for $50. It sold for our full asking price. We paid $4.99 for it. And this one actually only took a couple of weeks to sell as well. All right, we have sold a couple of these up to this point, but I wanted to show this brand again. Wool base layers. Definitely keep your eye out for any kind of wool piece that looks like a regular shirt. This is a newer brand to me called Minus 33. Very good sell-through rate and ASP. We listed this. It was called I don't even want to try to pronounce that. It was a merino wool base layer, men's, Minus 33. Listed this for $45, which is pretty typical, I would say, $35 to $50 for the pre-owned base layer shirts in the men's department. Listed this for $45. It sold for our full asking price. We paid $7. This one actually did take several months to sell. We listed this back in April. Kind of the same situation as that Irish wool piece. We picked it up knowing that this is the kind of stuff that sells every single year. Wool base layers are definitely one of those categories. Next up, this isn't a brand I typically get in footwear, but it is Steve Madden. Steve Madden does have some gems in shoes, and the things that I usually look for are anything platform, especially platform boots. If they're Y2K or vintage, you're going to sell them for a lot more. If they are more modern, like these ones were, you could still sell them for a great price, just not as much as the vintage ones. These were a pair of platform combat boots. We listed these for $40 and they sold for our full asking price. These did take a couple of months to sell, but again, great full price sale. We paid $5.99. And we are picking up anything Cashmere, but this is an excellent brand to look for in Cashmere. If you do find it, it is Mini Rose. Some of their pieces go for quite a bit. I would say my average sale price is around $40 for this brand, Mini Rose. This is a really nice hooded cardigan cashmere sweater, again with the green being very popular. Listed this for $45. It sold for our full asking price. This one also took a couple of months to sell, but we picked it up in June, which is, middle of summer. So again, a pickup we knew was going to perform well. Cashmere performs well every single year for fall and winter. So right now, be thinking in fall and winter, what can you pick up for spring that sells? You can knock it out of the park. It's a home run every time, because if you come across them, they're typically going to be cheaper and nobody's going to be looking at them. So all of those pieces that I've shown you so far are ones we picked up in summer. Next up, this is a scrubs brand, my favorite scrubs brand. It is Figs. It's probably the only scrubs brand that we pick up. I wanted to show you this because I didn't know that they made jackets like this, so I thought it was worth mentioning. This was called the Sydney Full Zip Scrub Jacket. We listed this for $35. It sold for our full asking price, and it only took a couple of weeks to sell. Another category and a section of the thrift store that a lot of people pass on, the scrub section. If you can find Figs, I do think it is worth looking up the style and potentially getting. Next up, this was a surprising sale to me. This is by the brand John Mark. This is a very high retailing brand, but the sell-through rate is not there for anything except for plus size. If you find plus size in this brand, excellent sell-through rate and ASP. I wanted to test this out just because we've done well with plus sizes. I thought, let me test out a size large. Let me price it the same way I would another John Mark piece, and let me just see how it performs. So this is the result of that experiment. We picked this up May 23rd, 2024, and it has sat. We are now in October, so it's about 5 months, and it has sat because I priced it so high. It did end up selling for our full asking price. It did sit longer than I would have hoped, but this was an experiment that I'm glad I did to see how it would pay off. And this again shows, depending on your pricing, if you're trying to price it what everybody else is pricing it at, despite it having a lower sell-through rate in a particular size, you are probably going to sit on that item. 5 months is not bad for the size, but again, just not in my business model. So I think in the future, I'm going to undercut the market slightly to get this to move faster, but it did sell for a full asking price. We originally paid $5 for it, and it took 5 months to sell, but excellent brand to find in especially the plus sizes. All right, here's another pair of Birkenstocks. Birkenstocks can still perform really well. You can see these ones were well loved, but they were a unique green color. These were the Arizona style sandals. I listed these for $40 despite all of the wear. They sold very quickly on an offer for $34 and only took a couple of weeks to sell. I paid $7 for these. This is another surprising sale. I am not an expert in the jewelry section by any means, but occasionally I do glance over there. I was actually over there looking for necklaces to pair with dresses that we're photographing just because my listers asked for it. And I came across this necklace. It just felt a little bit heavier, more higher quality than the other ones. And I did notice branding here. So this is Anne Klein. And it turns out that vintage Anne Klein jewelry actually performs extremely well. This one I estimated being from the 90s. It was a really cool multicolor black gold chain necklace, very heavy and chunky. Surprisingly, pretty good comps, about a 50 to 75% sell-through rate, and the ones that are selling were selling for about 40 to 50. I listed this one high 50 just because I was experimenting. I paid $5.99 for it, and it sold for our full asking price, and it only took about a month to sell. I thought that was pretty amazing, and I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out for jewelry. We have some people who sell jewelry in our group, so I might just reach out to them and ask for some help and then do some research on my own to become a little bit better at jewelry, because this was a pretty awesome sale. $50 for this tiny little thing. I mean, you cannot beat that. All right, next up, this is a pretty niche brand, but it is newer to me, and I thought I would share it with you because it does have a 200% sell-through rate, despite there being a small batch of them. It is Zam Barrette. Very, very niche. This is a hand tie-dyed top. I listed this for $45. It sold on an offer to Watcher for $38, and it only took about 3 weeks to sell. If you ever see a high quality feeling tie-dye piece, just look it up. More often than not, it turns out to be really, really good. All right, next up, I recently did a 50% off sale on all of my summer items, and this dress got caught in that sale. I had it listed for $75. You guys saw this in a haul video. I picked this up at the bins. I actually found 2 of these. This was the shorter of the 2 dresses. Excellent brand to look out for, Bella 2, and it was new at tags. So crazy good find at the bins. Beautiful dress. This one, again, was the shorter knee length one. I listed this one for $75. It sold on our 50% off sale of summery items for $38. Why did I do a 50% off sale on something like this? It fell in the dresses category. It was a shorter length. It was a bright multicolor. There were some dresses that I excluded from the sale because I thought they were more fall or winter appropriate, but this one definitely screams summer to me. And what I don't want to happen, even though this is an excellent piece, new with tags, it's long sleeve, so maybe it could do well in the fall. Unfortunately, I just don't want to sit on this for an entire year. We want to be competitive and we want to get things moved out and only pick up things that are performing well in the season that we are currently living in, unless we know that we can sell it at a reduced price to move it quickly. So this did end up in that 50% off sale. I picked up at the bin, so probably a couple bucks. And it sold for. Next up, this was another bins piece. This is just cashmere. Pick up anything cashmere at the bins. This is by the brand Lyle and Scott. I'm not sure that I would memorize that brand, but again, an indicator of one you want to look for, made in Scotland. So the same thing about thick, chunky wool sweaters would be true also for cashmere if they're made in like Ireland, Scotland, sometimes Peru, and some other ones. So that is the main reason I picked this one up. We listed this for $30. It sold for our full asking price. Next up, this is another style-based flip. This is a brand I'm sure most of you have given up on. It is American Eagle. I have pretty much given up on American Eagle too. There are 3 things in American Eagle that I do look for. And if you want to know what those 3 things are, do a comp search and figure out what sells well. I recommend doing that in any brand you frequently come across. I do this so that I can pass on pretty much everything else. I have laser focus on the few items within the brand that I know perform well that people are passing on. So this would be an exception, which is a vintage Y2K men's thick hoodie with a large Y2K graphic. Had this hoodie been missing any of those factors, I would not have picked it up. So a lot of things involved in factor stacking with this piece. It also had quite a few issues: hole in the front, a few stains on the cuff, and it still sold very quickly. I picked this up at the bins. We listed for $35. It sold on an offer to watcher for $30. And this one only took a week to sell. Again, if you want to learn about these style-based aesthetics, factor stacking, powerful combinations to look for in any brand, please consider joining Reseller's Edge and taking a look at all the videos that we already have up for everybody. This was an interesting sale. This is Blood on the Dance Floor, which is a very niche old Y2K emo band. This was one of the first concerts that I ever went to. I'm honestly shocked that there are t-shirts in circulation for this brand because it was a smaller band back then. If you find any pre-owned Blood on the Dance Floor shirts, there does appear to be a pretty decent sell-through rate on eBay, and some are selling for quite a bit. I went kind of middle of the road with this one. I listed it at $40. It did end up selling for my full asking price, but it did end up sitting for several months. I listed this at the end of April, but again, very small niche band, so it's selling for like half of a year. I think that's pretty good for this and for full asking price. So if you see Blood on the Dance Floor shirts, consider picking them up. I paid $3.50 for this one. All right, this was a super recent pickup. This is REI. It is a backpack, the little day backpack. If you see any kind of backpack in a recognizable outdoorsy brand, I would just look them up. Specifically, North Face I know performs very, very well in most of their backpacks. I also look up Eddie Bauer and many other ones, but I also feel like backpacks are something a lot of people pass on. I come across them pretty often, and they're really, really great flips, really easy to list, even to ship. You can usually fold them up, so even though they're kind of big, they're foldable like clothing. Listed this one for first. I paid $4.50 for it, and it sold on an offer to watcher for $34. It sold the exact same day that we listed it. So really awesome flip for this backpack. Next up, this is Torrid. I'm very picky with Torrid. They are a plus size brand. I usually stick to size 2X or 3X and up. It has to be a more substantial piece. There are a few things in Torrid that I know perform really well for me. And this goes back to doing your own research for the brands that you frequently come across. I have done my research for Torrid. I know that anything super rainbow sells. So this one is a rainbow cardigan. You can see that we included that here as well, and a larger size in a more substantial piece. We listed this for $35. It sold for our full asking price. This one took a couple of months to sell. Next up, this is another example of how pricing can really affect a sell-through rate. I listed this way too high in the beginning. This is a Ralph Lauren plus size top, and if you've ever heard me talk about it, Ralph Lauren plus size tops have a very good sell-through rate. I usually price up on these if they have a bunch of factors. This one did have a lot of factors. It had a very interesting multicolor plaid. There's a little bit of an embroidery monogram right here, and it was linen. So all of those things combined, I priced very, very high. I should not have priced as high as I did because I listed this December 12th, 2023, so it's been almost a year, and I have since price dropped. It ended up selling on an offer for $38. We only paid $5 for it, so it's still a really great flip. But again, I'm just not in the business of holding on to things that long. I have definitely learned my lesson on pricing up that quickly. And just because I want to move things quicker, and that's my business model, doesn't mean that has to be your business model, but it is good to know how different things affect other parts of your business so that you know what you're getting into when you make certain decisions. This was one of my favorite sales this week because this is a style-based flip. This is the brand Universal Thread, which is sold at Target. It was a new with tags item. The retail on this is $24. We listed this for $30. And we sold it for full asking price, plus shipping. I paid $4.99 for this. Again, aesthetic wise was everything. It had nothing to do with the brand, but there were a lot of factors and style aesthetics that this fell under. We actually didn't include the style aesthetics in our title as we should have, surprisingly, but it still ended up selling for full asking price, $30. This is definitely something if you want to test it out and learn a certain style that I would recommend picking up at the bins where it is super cheap for you as you test stuff out and learn style-based stuff. But I feel so confident in it now that we're actually picking up things at full price at thrift stores to flip online for a profit. It's amazing. I love adding on style-based stuff. All right, next up, this is not a style-based flip. This is high sell-through rate. We focus majority of our business on high sell-through rate things. Just love adding on additional things with the style-based and the factor stacking. So this is a new-ish brand. It is a men's brand called 7 Diamonds. I recently learned that their pants perform extremely well. When I came across the shirt, I was like, I'm going to look that up because the pants are doing so well. You can see how just things kind of lead you in the direction of other bolos within a brand. So I found this at the bins. I looked it up. These actually have a really great sell-through rate and sell for pretty great bread and butter prices. This is the 4-way stretch men's shirt. I had it in a larger size as well. Listed this for $30. It sold for our full asking price. And this one took about a week to sell. Or sorry, no, not a week, about a month and a week. All right, next up, this is Lilly Pulitzer. I just wanted to share this because Lilly Pulitzer is typically something everyone's looking for, the big multicolor prints and patterns in spring and summer. However, their sweaters can also perform well. And I just wanted to show an example of a pretty plain item just so you knew to look for it in this brand. So this is a pretty plain cardigan. Let's see, it was made out of cotton and modal, so it's not even cashmere or anything like that. And it's just a navy blue cardigan. Listed this one for $35. It did sell for our full asking price, and it took about a month to sell. So again, these under the radar items in certain brands, you definitely want to be aware of. This is one of my favorite brands to pick up in plus sizes. I do try to stick to the more substantial pieces. This is a Calvin Klein 3X caftan top. I listed this for $30. I'll often add dollar amounts to my plus size pieces if I feel they have a lot of factors. So this was one we added quite a bit of money to because usually we're selling 20 to 25. So we We listed for $30. It sold for an offer to watcher of $25. This took a couple of months to sell and we paid $5, but this is a great example of plus size bread and butter. Here's another plus size bread and butter, Talbot's 2X. We also listed this one higher at $30. It sold on an offer to watcher for $25. This one also took a couple of months to sell. We paid $5. Here is another style-based flip. This is the brand Access, not a brand I would memorize, but they do have a couple of very Y2K on-trend pieces. Lots of factor stacking in this style-based piece of why I picked it up. It also had a few issues. I didn't realize that when I picked it up at the thrift store. A few light marks and a small run on the bottom, and it still sold super duper quickly. This is definitely a Y2K fairy grunge piece. I picked this up for $4.99. Again, getting very confident with the style-based pickups. I listed it for $30. This sold in a bundle, so the buyer got about 10% off. This one flipped very quickly, just a couple of months, which is great for a style-based piece. Here is another Torrid piece. This is another example of something that I look for in Torrids. This is a size 2X. These darker contrasting florals definitely perform well in Torrids, specifically black and red combo. This is a beautiful wrap top. I listed this for $30. It sold for our full asking price. I paid $4.99, and this one took about 2 months to sell. This is another style-based flip. This is just the brand Chelsea and Violet, not a brand that I would memorize by any means, but this was super cottagecore boho. It was a more substantial piece, lots of great factor stacking in this one. Unfortunately, this one also had multiple issues with it, and it still sold relatively quickly for our full asking price of $25. This is another bread and butter plus size piece. This is Catherine size 3X. I like to show you these because you ask about the plus size padding sales we're putting in, and a lot of people are in disbelief that you can sell them for this much. It can't just be anything in Catherine's. It's got to have some factor stacking, be a more substantial piece, but I do feel like I've got Catherine's figured out for sure. This is a 3X more substantial top. I listed it for $25. I paid $5. It sold for full asking price. It took a couple of months to sell. Moving on to the few good Poshmark sales that I had that weren't clearance sales. This is by the brand For Love and Lemons. This brand does not have a 100% sell-through rate, but depending on the piece you have, can perform well. This was a very on-trend piece. It sold for $47. It was a mesh sheer kind of dress, which is very typical for this brand, For Love and Lemons. Next up, this is still one of my favorite brands to pick up. Very good following on this. Generally, I can get at least $25 even for the t-shirts. This is a packed organic cotton women's t-shirt. I listed this for $30 and it sold pretty quickly. This one's a bit more of a longer tail sale for us, but the ribcage jeans and the wedgie jeans are still performing decent for us. We are not getting as much as we used to. We used to be able to get like 30 to 50. Now I would say it's more 25 to 40. These ones ended up selling on an offer for $28, but Levi's is still a very strong brand, particularly in those two styles. I do like getting them. This is a bread and butter sale, but it is a brand I pick up in just about anything. It is Reformation. This is a size 0 little crop top. It went very quickly for $25. This is a brand I've mentioned recently. It is Fry. Fry is performing very well. These ones had a lot of wear to them, but the ballet flats do have a pretty good sell-through rate, so I just picked it up and listed mine lower than everyone else, and it sold for $28. This is an excellent brand that you definitely want to know in the jumpsuits category. It is Embody. Specifically, if they have a larger size, you're going to see a lot higher sell-through rate and average sale price, but in general, great brand to look for. This is a 3X Embody wide leg jumpsuit. It sold on an offer for $72 pre-owned. This is another brand that performs very well, very high ASP. This is Kuyana. They're known for their silk pieces, and these are a pair of women's 100% silk pants. These sold on an offer for $90. Here is another disbelief sale. This is Woman Within. I told you guys I wanted to test out selling this brand because I come across it pretty often, and I come across it in substantial pieces, but the sell-through rate just looks like garbage when you look it up. The ASP is not high, so I picked up a couple of pieces. I'm testing them out at the prices that I feel comfortable with, which is about $20 to $25, and they are selling. So this experiment has been a success. I'm still only going to continue picking up the more substantial ones, but it is nice to know that I can go against the comps on this one. So Woman Within, pretty sure the Walmart brand. This is a plaid long sleeve tunic top. It sold for my full asking price of $25, which is insane because I come across this brand again so often. All right, next up, this is a very high sell-through rate brand that is still performing very well. It is Free Fly. This is a men's bamboo Henley shirt. It went on an offer for $25. I probably could have gotten more, but I went ahead and accepted that offer to move it. Bamboo is typically more of a spring summer kind of material, so I wanted to just get that moving quickly. That's what they're known for, is bamboo, and like I said, very high sell-through rate. These 3 squiggly lines are their logo. Next up, this is a little clutch wristlet wallet. This is by the brand Patricia Nash. I would definitely know this brand. They make a lot of high quality leather goods. Not everything she does, but a lot of them are leather embossed like this, so it might be an indicator that it's Patricia Nash. Again, where these smaller items can really pull through. I think we originally listed this at $50, and I went ahead and accepted an offer of $34. Again, I'd rather get that flipped quickly, but still all around a great sale for a little wristlet. This brand has been surprising me recently. It is Mink Pink. This brand is sold at Anthropologie sometimes, and it actually flips very quickly. I think the only reason the ones we've been flipping have been flipping so quickly is because of the style. So it's got the baby doll bodice area, very milkmaid style. I have been surprised at how quickly they've been selling. I think we listed this one for $75. I accepted an offer of $50 because it did have a run on the front. And again, dresses, I'm trying to just move out and get as much as I can for it. And last up is another brand you want to be on the lookout for. It is Alberto Macaulay. They make a ton of really crazy looking stuff. This brand in particular, all their pieces right now fall into the fairy aesthetic, and it's definitely one you want to look for, especially right now while that trend is hot. If you can find this in a larger size, it definitely increases ASP and sell-through rate. This one is just a size extra large, and we listed it for around $50, accepted an offer of $39. All right, guys, so that's it for what sold from last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you like these kind of videos and you are not already, consider subscribing down below. Make sure to hit the notification bell, and then if you hit all, you'll be notified every single time I post one of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.